Hey guys, so just as a reminder, this week we are looking at understanding the purpose of enjambment in poetry and then also writing another poem, this time a little bit different, a little bit more kind of loosey-goosey than last week's. So by the end of today, you should be able to correctly use enjambment and two sound devices in a poem of your own. So on Wednesday, I assigned a field trip. So you were supposed to go around and record different words that you see in your neighborhood. Just go for a walk. If you aren't able to get out of your house or apartment, then walk around your apartment. Just kind of what words do you see and what stands out to you. So you should have collected that in the last couple of days. Ideally, we'll have a couple dozen words, just anything that stood out to us. And we're going to use those in writing a poem. So, to create our poem, you should group all of the words that you found and identify what topic or connection they might have with each other. So, when we're walking through this process, this is actually this first step of the writing process of identifying what you're writing to. If you have several words that stood out to you that are kind of categorized in a similar way, maybe they're all about family or they're all about nature or they're all about businesses, then that can be what you're writing to. So kind of break everything into different groups. And then whichever group you feel kind of most compelled to talk to, that will be your focus. That'll be your subject. And then just write down a few things that you are taking away from this walk or from these words. This can also be associated with those emotions that you feel toward this subject. So that second step of the writing process. And then again, list out anything that rhymes with, oh, sorry, actually, identify which from those groups, which of those keywords really are the biggest pieces for you. Um, and those are going to be your keywords that you're going to want to end up having things rhyme with. So list out anything that you can that rhymes with those keywords that you found in your walk. Okay. So essentially, we are starting with these terms to discover what are we really thinking about? What are we noticing? It's kind of a subconscious noticing. And then how do we feel about them? And what can we kind of associate with these words? What kinds of rhymes can we come up with? So list all of those out. And then you are going to try to use 20 words from your walk. Now, if you didn't get even 30 words, 20 to 30 words, try to use at least two-thirds of what you did find. If you found more than 30 words, then just try to use 20. Um, and in your key term kind of categories, you may end up bumping into a couple of different categories, but use what you can, even if you didn't find something to rhyme with every single word. Try to use 20 in your poem and just write about and write to that topic. Whatever was the connection, whatever was categorized, um, write to that topic and just write. Don't worry about breaking it up. Don't worry about trying to have the right number of syllables in each line. Like, don't worry about that. If you just want to brain vomit onto the screen or onto a piece of paper, just write. Try to incorporate those rhymes, but don't worry about words being right next to each other and rhyming. Don't worry about trying to make this look like a poem because you are just going to write out as much as you can. Again, trying to use 20 words from your walk, expressing an emotion or idea about the common category that these words connect to. And then once you have everything written out, then you're going to go back and break up your writing um, based on rhyme or based on kind of quick shifts in your sentences. We do not want there to be nice, clean punctuation at the end of each line. We don't need the sentence to end at each line. The goal is to use enjambment. So figuring out how can we use some rhyme or sound devices within our sentences and then break those up in a way where it looks or sounds kind of poetic for pauses. And you've got enjambment. Um, Now, this is probably going to feel very strange to do and is probably going to be a little bit awkward. That's okay. The first time we work with poetry, the first few times we work with poetry, it feels a little weird. And the first time that we break some of traditional norms of poetry, we may not love it because it doesn't feel like a poem. And using enjambment is actually a great way to break away from the typical poetry structure and actually organize our words in a way where, again, we have to make our reader slow down in order to truly get the meaning behind it. Um, but also just figuring out how can we kind of play with the words a little bit? How can we be a little more creative and start to, again, find our own writing craft? And that's what this is all about. So go ahead and sit down, take a few minutes, just try to write as much as you can to that category or topic, and then go back and break everything up. Make it have a little bit different of a flow to where when I read it, I have to slow down in order to really understand what you're saying.